there were two ways of exercising piracy in the Middle Ages: as a privateer or corsair, or a pirate. Privateers and corsairs, the terms are somehow related, but there are some different aspects. Both terms are referring of engaging and looting merchant enemy ships. But we're gonna discuss these three subjects today, and I'm gonna start with the Corsair. Alright, Corsairs, or French term, French Corsairs, were privateers, yes, but they were authorized to conduct raids on shipping of a foreign state at war with France. At war with France, very important. On behalf of the French crown. Sized vessels and cargo were sold to auction, with the Corsair captain entitled to a portion of the proceeds. Although not French Navy personnel, the Corsair were considered legitimate combatants of the France or of the French Navy. Providing the commanding officer of the vessel was the possession of a valid letter of marque or letter of course, and the officer and the crew conducted themselves according to the contemporary Admiralty law. By acting on behalf of the French crown, if captured because they had a letter of marque, they could be in principle claim treatment as prisoners of war, and this is very important, instead of being considered pirates. So, in short term, corsairs or privateers, there were pirates or legal pirates that acted on behalf of a sovereign nation. Because corsairs gained as the bad reputation, the word corsair is also generically as a more romantic or way of referring to privateers or to pirates. Also, corsairs, the Barbary pirates of the North Africa, as well as of the Ottoman Empire, were sometimes called Turkish corsairs, but in history the term corsair were attributed to those that, or privateers that are on sailing ships on behalf of the French crown. Now, there were also some famous corsairs, and one of them was Hayreddin Barbarossa, who was born in 1483 and died in 1546, and he was an Ottoman corsair or privateer, and later admiral of the Ottoman Navy. Barbarossa's naval victories secured Ottoman dominance over Mediterranean during the mid-16th century. Another famous corsair was Robert Surcouf. Robert Surcouf, he was born in 1773 and died on 1827. He was a French privateer who operated in the Indian Ocean between 1789 and 1801, capturing over 40 prizes or 40 ships. He later amassed a large fortune as a ship owner from privateering commercial activities. Well, the third one, notorious Corsair, was Jean Bart. From 1650 to 1702, was a French naval commander and privateer. He achieved his greatest success during the 9 Years' War between 1688 and 1697. Also the same term, but a little bit with different meaning. Let's talk about privateers. Well, privateers, like Corsair, was a pirate, but a nation authorized to carry out their robbery, like in the case of French Corsairs. In most cases, it was a particular sailor who offered his services and his boat to a monarch. But he also needed a letter of marque. The monarch, in a document called Letter of Marque, granted him permission to attack maritime traffic and those weakened countries. Thus, the privateer became part of the navy of the country. The actual patent legalized their mission so that their participation in the war could not be considered as a case of piracy to the letter of marque held. In return for this protection, the privateer should accept the laws and custom of the war, follow the instruction of the monarch, and provide a deposit as guarantee that will respect and establish the order. Mostly that deposit will be his own ship. Privateers recovered the investments with the booty of the plunder. The captured ships and small cities sometimes. Although part of the booty was handed over to the crown also. So both parties have the deal, or both parties involved had a deal. There were all sorts of famous privateers. The most famous of all privateers is probably the English Admiral Francis Drake. Who made a fortune plundering Spanish settlements in the Americas after being granted a privateering commission by, or letter of marque by, Elizabeth I in 1572. Alright, a second one, another notorious privateer was Joseph Bars. From 1776 to 1824, was a sea captain of the schooner Liverpool, and was on one of the most successful privateers on the North American Atlantic coast during the War of 1812. Alright, and now let's switch to the third subject, or the third chapter, which is the pirate. Well, the pirate, however, did not depend on anyone, so the pirate didn't need a letter of marque. He had not accountable to any authority. and they robbed on their own at sea and coastal areas, the most coastal areas. His behavior as a pirate is not held to any ethical, and its profit motive was guiding his steps. The pirates acted against almost all merchant ships of any nation. After regular trading threatening the overall business security, so being chased by all maritime nations, and especially by the great powers of that time. The pirates mostly they used the numerical superiority and stepped on their ships to size cargo ships with limited crew and little experience with weapons. Unlike privateers, places where they could sell their booties, they could be very dangerous because they could be arrested and hanged in those ports. It all depends on the greed and moral authorities of the ports that they arrived. Something always difficult to figure out. That's why the pirates used hideouts, their own hideouts, to hide their seized cargoes. We have also some very notorious pirates, very well known, and first one is Captain Kidd. Well, interesting, Captain Kidd was once, or William Kidd, once a respected privateer. Captain William Kidd set sail in 1696 with the assignment of hunting down pirates in the Indian Ocean, but he soon turned a pirate himself, capturing vessels of his own country, British vessels, and killing subordinates on them and seizing their cargoes, this resulting in becoming a pirate. The second one, and many movies were made about him, is Blackbird. That's the nickname. He was born Edward Teach Blackbird. He has a very original method of intimidating enemies by cooling smoking fuses into his long braided facial hair, and by slinging multiple pistols across his chest. Another one is Calico Jack. Well, Calico Jack, his name was John Rackham, and is better known as Calico Jack, received a pardon for some previous piracy acts in 1719. Nonetheless, he headed back out to sea the following year after seizing a 12-gun sloop from Nassau Harbor into the Bahamas and becoming again a pirate. Alright, the next one, another pirate, is Henry Morgan. Henry Morgan. Perhaps the best known pirate of the buccaneering era. Henry Morgan once purportedly ordered his men to look the inhabitants of Puerto Principe in Cuba inside a church so that they could plunder the town unhindered. He was very sneaky. Alright, so this was the session for today. I hope you enjoyed this short briefing about pirates, privateers, and corsairs. And if you enjoyed it, if you are not subscribed, I think now it's the moment. This is the only support that I'm asking you to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see next time. Until then, I wish you, like always, all the best. Bye bye.